Hello, hello. Welcome to the Global GHk celebration for Dr. Hammer's birthday. I want to say thank you so much for being with us today. I have Elizabeth. We're going to share some of her story, and it's going to be a very, very powerful video. So thank you for being here and for listening. Thank you, Elizabeth, for being open to sharing your story. We met in the Global GHk membership, which I'll link or will be linked in the video or in the description below. And it's this amazing community that meets on Sundays, and we're just learning to read our own body symptoms together and really building this, beautiful community. So just wanted to say I'm glad that we met through that aspect. What I'm going to do first is I want to introduce the law of two phases before we get started, because I really feel that's going to help with just how the body works, how the process works with GHK or Geminische Heilkunde. Because when you are able to look at the symptom from a place, I always say be a detective. So when you can look at your symptom, like, okay, why is my brain turning this on? Or what is right about this symptom or this thing that I'm experiencing right now based on my environment? It helps you to pop up out of, the situation and really take that step back to look at, all of the things. Okay, what's going on? Did I just stand up for myself? Is this the healing phase? Am I in conflict active? So let me just share. I'll go through the two phases. So let me just get
Okay.
that on the screen. Come in here. Um, for myself, I started learning GHK in November of 2022. My name is Christine Cardoza Hart. I'm changing my name to Christine Hart, and I own a healing spa called Oasis of Healing Spa in Waterloo, Ontario, just outside of Toronto. And when I found GHK in 2022, it was a game changer because I had always been in the emotional body, like what the emotional connection was to symptoms, the metaphysical. But when I started to look at it through the lens of the five biological laws, it was a game changer because I'm like, wow, I would match the person's story to the symptom to what the conflict was. And it was bang on majority of the time. And I'm like, this is so exact. And so I really have been diving deep on a daily basis for
Yeah.
over, 3.5 years. Because when a client comes in, I can look at what their symptom is and the story at the same time. So it just came alive for me. And I'm very passionate about it because I feel this is a way that we can read our own bodies and not be dependent first thing, on someone else. Go get help if you need it, absolutely. But first, can you start to begin to process, why is this happening in my body? So on this, the law of two phases, and thank you to Danielle Bryant who wrote a book, and this is from her book. I wrote some extra notes on it. We're not going to worry too much about the words, but really just the graphic. I'm going to go through that. So on the far left side, there's a little man there, and so we're fine, and we're humming along, we're going through life, our daily rhythm, and then we have a conflict shock, this like, where you felt alone, isolated, and caught on the wrong foot. That's the first biological law. In that moment, the body takes on a perception of, oh no, or I need to adapt, or my perception has changed where I don't feel safe, or, something has happened. When we're in conflict active, or think of fight or flight, I also call this a tiger stage. Because think of like, we could be fine. Elizabeth and I are having a conversation, but if I realize that there's something in my peripheral or in my environment where my body is now going into, oh, there's a danger in my territory, then my body's going to go into this conflict active. Or when we worry, or when you walk on eggshells. And so I call it tiger stage, so that you're in this like, your body is doing that. Okay. So when we're in fight or flight, we're cold, we're not hungry, we're barely peeing, we're waking up at 3, 4, 5 in the morning, or having a hard time going to sleep. Think of the animal kingdom as we have this conversation today. It's like your body's trying to resolve the conflict. This is where constipation lies, bloating, period pain for women who have that. These are some of the things that are very common that people deal with, and your body's in this like, oh no, or waiting for the shoe to fall, or waiting for something bad to happen. And if we can start to learn how to relax our body, or at least know why our body's in that situation, then it really puts the power back in our hands, because then we can make the changes needed. When we resolve the conflict, so the little green oval there, this resolution could look like a perspective change where you say, you know what, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to have better boundaries. Or you move, you change jobs, you retire, a parent dies, or someone dies. Basically, when the thing can't happen anymore, then your body goes into repair, okay, into the healing phase A. And this is where majority of the symptoms are. So if you see on that blue pump that goes down below the line there, just below conflict resolution. This is when the extra edema or healing fluid has gone into the area for healing. So if someone has a cold, you're in this area, sciatica, back pain, anything with bones, muscles. If you have a skin rash, you're going to be here in this healing phase A. If you have diarrhea or you have gas would be the opposite of the bloating, right? Which bloating is an indigestible morsel, and then you resolve it, and now you have gas. So it's this cause and effect, and it's really neat because you can see your own patterns. And when we're in this healing phase A and there's extra fluid, which would also be called inflammation or infection, even, you're in this healing phase A. These are our extra microbes, bacteria, sometimes parasites, just depending on what's happening in the body. That's the fourth biological law. It's the why. Why is it there? People are like, oh, let's do this detox or let's get rid of the inflammation. But at first, the first question is, well, wait, hold on. Why is it there? Because if this is a healing phase of the body, do you really want to get rid of it? And so the healing symptoms could be you have now warm hands, maybe you feel a sense of relief, you're not ruminating anymore, your brain has turned off, you're going to maybe have a fever. Night sweats is a really good sign. Your body has gone into healing or in parasympathetic, the rest and digest. When you're still in conflict active, you are not able to repair because your body's still waiting for that threat or that tiger in the room. But in healing phase A, now the body's like, oh, okay, the threat is gone, or there's been a perception change or a hormonal change on each side of the brain. And so now in the repair phase, I call this the construction crew. So imagine you have, back pain. Let's just say lower back. It's like your body is wrapped up in construction tape saying, slow down, because we're in a healing phase. You are in repair right now. Then when the construction crew is done or the repair phase is done, and I just want to share this is when most people go home on the weekend or they go on vacation and they get sick. It's like, okay, I would look at it as two ways. Am I in conflict active and maybe, or am I in repair? And it will just help you to process what's going on. But when the healing phase is done, now think about it, all that extra fluid or the healing edema, microbes, fungi, TB bacteria, whatever it is, that's been in the repair, your little surgeons, now the brain says, okay, it's time to take it out. So that's going to be in the epicrisis where it's that little red line that goes up. There's the word test there. And this in the epicrisis, this could be where, we go back to original thoughts or ruminations or, man, I thought I got over this cold and now I'm sick again. It's just like the symptoms, some of the old symptoms could come back from conflict active. You might be cold, you may have chills. Um, Here it could be fainting, could be shivers, could be memory loss. Sneezing is really cool. When someone sneezes, the immediate question is, what did you resolve? Because you're in the epicrisis. It could be hiccups. That would be the overwhelm of the diaphragm in resolution. It could be on a bigger scale, would be heart attack, stroke, seizure. And so once that happens, and then now the body's going to clear out the extra fluid. So that would be healing phase B. And that's when we pee more, or if you had a cold, this is when the mucus is going to come out. So cough is very key because that is really your body is clearing out, depending if the territorial fear or scare fright, whether you're right or left-handed. And then your tissues are stronger. So really like a simple way to look at the body is when you're hot, you're in healing, and when you're cold, you're in conflict or you're in the epicrisis, and that's usually with chills. Think of like the peristalsis, of that edema or that healing fluid now needs to be moved out of that organ. So the brain's going to say, okay, let's clear that out, and that will be some of the feelings that we have. Muscle spasms, as an example, is in that healing phase. Okay, so those are the law of two phases. And then I want to share the skin, what the skin programs look like. And again, this is from Danielle Bryant's book. She's written a couple books, but this is from, layman's terms of GHK, or German New Medicine, known in English. And if you look at this works for the breast tissues as well, but we'll just talk about skin. If it's in the epidermis, which is on the top layer, this is in the red group or in the ectoderm part of the brain. The symptoms come at the end in the healing phase. So when you're in conflict active, there are no symptoms, or there could be a numbness when you have cell loss. Okay, it could be dry, flaking skin. Someone who has dandruff, they're in the cell loss or in conflict active. Memory loss could be as well, right? You walk into the kitchen, you're like, why am I here? What I come in for? You're probably either healing or maybe in conflict active of whatever's going on in your world. With the tissue restoration, or when the healing comes, this is when we have redness, inflammation, itchiness, possibly blisters. It's going to be important for our story today. And in the epicrisis, that's when that edema or the healing fluid is squeezing out of the area. Then it could be dizziness, absence, headaches, cold, fainting would be a part of the resolution, where you're on the tail end of that healing. And then in the corium skin, I just want to mention this quickly, is like when it is deeper, and this is when we have a feeling of being attacked, dirtied, soiled. This would be families who have come from um, like yelling, right? Or we feel attacked. And I feel many of us are sensitive and we take things too personally when really the other person's just trying to communicate something vulnerable, and maybe they don't have the greatest skills or they're nervous to say what they have to say, but then we take it on as an attack. So it's really learning to not feel attacked, I think, is part of the medicine too. And this is in the old brain, okay, the cerebellum, and we have cell plus in the conflict active stage. This would be thickening of skin growth, and then in the cell removal, this is now when the healing is coming into place. Now there will be extra fluid again to take out. Could be extreme itching, stinging, fungal or bacteria activity. And in the epicrisis, this could be shivers, boils will burst, headaches, and removal of the extra cells. So there is a purpose with the symptom. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing the screen and we're going to come back to Elizabeth, the guest of honor right now, and just really share, like tell us what's the backstory. Like, we're going to talk about how GHK has helped you in your healing, some pretty extreme healing symptoms that you went through. But if you want to just give, a little background story of where you think things started.
Sure, absolutely. Because I had that sort of light bulb moment as well. I found GNM in 2023, which was after I had my big skin eruption. And it just gave me so much power to look at where I've been. And instead of seeing it as something that made me more vulnerable or something that went wrong, it then became this badge of honor almost. Like, look at what I went through and look at all of these things that I healed because my trauma was piled on from the time that I was a young child. So having this repression and this sort of unworthiness almost was playing out in all of these different areas of my life. And it aided in me getting so sick because I just kept repressing the symptoms. I didn't understand that my body was talking to me and that I could have a conversation with it and figure out ways to ease it. So, yeah, basically the main diagnosis that I have is craniocervical instability. And that is tied with things like a genetic tissue disorder called EDS or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and that affects the collagen. So, to talk about my actual timeline, when I started feeling sick and sort of like something was off, one of the things that I got really into was yoga. And because I had this innate flexibility in my joints and in my collagen, it seemed like I was great at it, right? Everyone always came up to me thinking I was a teacher or something like that. And so what I was actually doing was standing on my head and further compressing my spinal cord and just using it as an outlet to sort of think, oh, this is my way to healing without actually getting into the deep darkness of it all.
Oh, so wild. And then you have sent some pictures, which you've given us permission to
Mm.
show on this call. Do you want to start talking about, like, first of all, if you want to share why you're in the hospital, but what happened in that?
Yep. Yeah, let's get into it. So,
Sure.
one of the things, go ahead. Oh, sorry, I thought you said something. So, one of the things that I sort of had a fight for throughout the medical system was the right doctors that could diagnose craniocervical instability and knew about these confounding factors. So, this is once I was in the hospital because I had had my cervical fusion and I had had a bad reaction to the bone matrix that they put in from my brainstem down to C2. So I had emergency surgery to take all of that out. And as a precaution, they gave me a PICC line of a very heavy antibiotic called vancomycin. So after about a month of that vancomycin, I got very sick. I couldn't keep any food or water down, which is the only way that I'll go to the ER in the first place. That's another reason, as a side note, that I love GHK because I knew from my own personal experience that ERs didn't often help me. It's way too complex of a syndrome for the common ER room to understand. And so I already avoided it like the plague. And now, with this underlying foundation of GHK, I can understand instead of being scared enough to actually go to the ER. It takes this whole other level of safety underneath me. So to go back to the picture, what wound up happening from this high dose antibiotic for a variety of reasons, but also because I had had antibiotic abuse as a baby, was that it turned into something called DRESS syndrome. And that is a combination of like liver failure, sepsis. This was the very beginning of the rash, if you can believe it or not. It started as red and then it covered my whole body. My whole body was inflamed for a couple of days. I couldn't even see out of my eyes, even though my eyes were open. My face sort of looked like an old man. You wouldn't even recognize me. And then what happened was it turned a deep dark purple and my entire skin shed like a snake. And then I sort of joke now that it was almost like a free chemical peel because afterwards my skin was just so smooth and luminous and like a baby's bottom for maybe a month and a half after that. So it's a another like boost from this whole healing phase idea that this was actually helping my body.
So wild, eh? Like even in the pictures that you are sharing with us, is like the top photo in the middle is so different than the one of you at the bottom in the red sweater, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And
Yeah,
that red sweater was maybe a week after I was home from the hospital. So I took that picture because I couldn't believe how healthy and vibrant I looked after everything I had just been through.
right. And I want to go back to
And
the circle.
and then I was
Sorry,
just
we have a
going to
little
add
delay.
one
Go
more
ahead.
caveat. Yeah, I was just going to add one more caveat is that the only reason I have these pictures is because no one within this area understood what was going on. So I was needing to send my allergist daily photos, and like this sort of archive has wound up as a result. And it really furthers this, my own healing story where, I'm not just sick and disabled and this whole thing is happening to me, it's happening for me, and there's nothing
Mhm.
like experience, and what will I be able to do because I've been through this.
Right. So good. And then let's just share. There's one more photo you sent because I'm just curious what the story is behind this one. Just coming up now.
Yeah, so that was just in the ER after about 2 hours. So from that first picture you saw, it
Mhm.
took maybe another 3 or 4 hours after this photo to get as bad as it was on that first photo. It happened pretty rapidly. Yeah.
Right. So wild, eh? Um, Thank you. I'm gonna stop sharing the photo. So basically, let's go back to the cervical reason of, why you went to the hospital in the first place, because that is the new mesoderm part of the brain. So it's this connection to I'm not good enough in my abilities. And that can come from multiple places, our parents, church, like whatever our background is, everyone has their own reason for, where we don't feel good enough in our abilities. I kind of feel like it's our human evolution of what we're here to learn how to love and, see ourselves in a light where we are worthy. But that surgery or the C vertebrae is connected to I feel dumb or I feel stupid. Right. And so
Mm-hmm.
again, those stories come from somewhere. And I really do feel like your process and what you've moved through from learning more about your story is that, this complete self-evaluation, I don't feel good, I'm not worthy, and your body responded to share what was deep inside of your subconscious. You've come through this major healing. I would even say, with the skin coming off, it's like you rebirthed yourself basically.
Yeah.
And now do you still have skin flare-ups that come?
I haven't. No, I have at this point a sort of arsenal of what I would do if I got hives or I started to have some sort of reaction. I do have this sort of tier within the Western medical system that I would go through. And again, those are all just layers of safety because I
Yeah,
haven't needed to use them at all, even for a small reason.
amazing. Yeah, so good. So, for anyone who's watching, our symptoms really are guiding us back home. It is that core root belief of what we truly believe about ourselves deep down, our body is showing us. And it's a really beautiful message. So if you can playfully, like with curiosity, not any, and compassion really, to look at, okay, well, if this is the symptom and writing out a symptom map or a timeline, we call it, on what the different symptoms are, through GHK, you can learn it based on colors. So, what color is it connected to? Learning the third biological law of is the cell plus in conflict active or cell plus in healing to know when the symptoms really, turn on, whether it's an adaptation in the yellow group or the orange group, the old mesoderm with the yellow lines. Do I have that right? Yeah, orange with yellow lines. Or is it the new mesoderm of bones, muscles, ligaments around abilities, where the pain and the cell plus is in the healing phase, and same with the ectoderm, which has a lot. You had a few programs running, but with the healing phase in the ectoderm as well. That's where a majority of people have a lot of their symptoms. It has to do with communication or territorial relays or separation conflicts where we feel we've been separated from someone. And then to, throw in the kidneys or the kidney collecting tubules, which we call the KCT, is this feeling of abandonment, isolation. It could be refugee, where you feel like a fish out of water, or existence conflict. Who am I? Where do I belong? Who will catch me if I fall? And that's where the fifth biological law comes in so nicely because the quintessence, it's our soul, our nature, that we are one with God or divinity or whatever your comfort word is for a higher power. And I would say to everyone who's
Mm-hmm.
watching, start there, get really secure in where am I loved by a greater divine power, God, if you wish. Um, and if you don't believe in that, or you're not sure what to believe in, based on like I grew up in strict religion and gone away from religion, but to believing in God, but nature can really help. What I will share with clients is
Yeah.
if you go and sit against a tree, the tree trunk is bigger than you are. It's a foundation, it's living, it's 432 hertz, so it's very healing. Same with Dr. Hammer's song. And if you just lay against the tree and just let the wind, play in your hair, whatever, but you will start to come up out of a funk or learning what your true nature is in the bigger scheme of things and then come back to looking at what the symptom is. Because sometimes I feel we're just too far in, like, oh, I have this thing or these migraines or this knee pain, whatever it is. It's like, come out, what is your truth on a bigger scale first? it helps to, when you're playing detective, to not take the symptoms as seriously. Yes, serious, absolutely. But like with that, okay, I must have gone through something. I've gone through some kind of shock that was unexpected for me. And my body has either adapted or I'm in a healing phase in this response of whatever the symptom is. So it's just like, yeah,
Yeah.
to bring it out there. How did
I,
that help you?
Yeah, I was just going to say I look at the fifth law as like the core. So even if you don't believe anything outside of you, you can get to the core of yourself. And then when you really look at that from like an elemental perspective, you're getting to yourself when you are out in nature. We're all made of the same things. So it's like, how can I use that regulation that nature just
Right.
does, and then get myself into that level of um, homeostasis, let's say.
Right.
So yeah, and the other thing that I loved with this GNM map that they have is all of my symptoms. I mean, I could track almost a page full when you printed it out of everything that everyone was telling me. They all came back to that self-devaluation core. So really looking into my life and seeing not only why I felt that self-devaluation, but how am I perpetuating it without even
Mhm.
realizing? Like, how can I shift so that I'm in more of a position of receiving the things that I want? And how am I scared of those things that I want? Like, why am I not magnetizing that? So it's really, really just this core level of self-responsibility that is so joyful, I find.
Oh man, I love that. Yes. And I feel like it's a stage of awareness, where we don't blame someone outside of us, whether it's our parents or the hospital or whatever. It's like being able to bring it in. Okay, if this is happening for me, why the heck am I going through this? I call it a cosmic fart. It's like, why am I a
Yeah.
match to this thing that is really uncomfortable? And what am I supposed to learn out of this thing? Because if I can approach it from that perspective, then I'm detaching from maybe what this means about me or feeling attacked or yeah, whatever the core root is, where we are born worthy just for being born. That is in our nature and our essence. And so the beauty of the body and our symptoms is it's guiding us back home to ourselves. My question, I'm so curious, when you first started to learn GHK and in 2023, what was the aha? Like what made it click for you?
It was just the ability of having everything weave together so perfectly. I had already created my own health timeline, partially because I was put in the position where I had to navigate everything myself, or else I would have just, remained as I was. So having this timeline existing and then looking into GNM and sort of assessing, oh, okay, this is self-devaluation, so this is self-devaluation. And, oh, wait a minute, when I zoom out, because when you have this idea of repression instilled in you, you don't think about your life in that way. And it really seems different when you put it to paper and can take that different lens. So it was comforting more than anything, honestly, because again, when the Western system fails you and when you're too complex to deal with that, your mind is really able to open up to these other ideas, these other ways of living.
So good. So good. Yeah, totally. And my brain sees patterns too. So when clients would write down all their symptoms and I can look at it and go, okay, I know exactly what we're going to talk about. And it's usually a self-evaluation of I don't feel good enough in my abilities. But then our ownership of coming back home to ourselves is like, okay, that came from somewhere. I wasn't born with that self-evaluation, but can I detach from the story, what I meant to let it mean about myself, or, to really come back into this place of wholeness within. And that no matter, this is the work, is like no matter what happens, I feel you're at this place for me as well, learning GHK is that no matter what happens, I have the core of I know who I am from within, that even in a storm, I can be calm because I can come back to that anchor of yeah, just the quintessence, but just that connection to the all, and then look at it from a curious place of like, okay, well, why is my brain turning on this headache or this swollen ankle or whatever it is based on what's happening in our environment? And when you shared about writing the timeline, so brilliant. You're very good at it, actually. I printed off, two of yours. Um,
Adorable.
just to show people, like, go symptom by
Yeah.
symptom. And then you can look up, I mean, if there's different websites where you can look up what the meaning is, if you can purchase Dr. Hammer's book, which is the chart book from amichiddirk.com. This is, his work. Yep. It's always, near me because I'm like, oh, you have what symptom? Okay, let me look it up, right? And then we're looking up what the colors are. There's four colors, like I mentioned earlier. And I just want to share with you because I thought this was so powerful. We look at the book and what the symptoms are, like this is amount of the symptoms that have cell plus in the conflict active. Okay. And then this is the symptoms that have cell plus in the healing phase. So you can see that it's thicker. So majority of
Our
symptoms
body
are
wants
in
to
the
heal.
healing phase. Yeah, and it's so fabulous. So that definitely, is a good place to start for those who, want to know, well, where do I find the info? A friend of mine, Nicola, she's created this amazing library that you can look at online. So it is, um, her website is, oh my goodness, NB Wisdom. No, oh my goodness, I'm getting it mixed up. Hold on. She has a library. Let me just grab it.
Yeah, I just I just took care of that. And one other thing I'll say about the topic that you're talking about, it's not only just why is this happening, but also what I can do with it. You can
Mhm.
transform this idea of, oh, these bad things are happening and I just have to go through the murk and that's all part of life to like, wait a minute. What does this now enable me to do? What can I transform this into? How can I play with this? So it really is just like a total paradigm shift.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, let me just share again where people can get resources to look this up for themselves. So nature'sbiologicalwisdom.ca. So it's N for nature, B for biological, nbwisdom.ca. There's a really great library. She's on Telegram as well. And just basically taking the chart book and creating these amazing graphics from it. And also learninggnm.com has an index where you can go and you can study yourself and look up, okay, just do one symptom on a line. So what the symptom was, what is showing that the conflict active or the shock was from, right? The DHS. And what I love about Dr. Hammer's work is that he studied over 40,000 brain scans. So he was talking to people, but also looking at their brain. And if it was in his map or in the body map, I call it was 100% yes for everyone who had that symptom. He didn't put it in if it was maybe these people, maybe not. It was 100%. And it also works for animals. So it's really neat because you can really look at your family and your pets, or if you own a farm, your animals in a totally different light and to do your own timeline. And there's lots of resources, for to be able to do that. Also, coming into this membership where we met, the Global GHk group from India, it's an amazing membership. It's $30 US right now for the year. And you have access to
Wow. Oh
live
yeah.
calls once, every Sunday, plus some calls on Wednesday, and we're, just building community there where you can get answers for yourself. But it's not always being told these are the answers for you. It's really learning how to do it for yourself, like Elizabeth has done. And I
Mm.
mean, look at her now, totally different from, where she came from and all the swelling and the skin issues and stuff like that. So I just want to say thank you for being willing to share your story and what an amazing outcome. Is there anything that, for someone maybe who's new to GHK or GNM that you would like to share with them and then share how people can find you?
Sure, absolutely. So, I would say for a new person with just discovering GNM and maybe having these symptoms that are hanging and they need to resolve, get excited. You can get
Mhm.
excited about these things, and there's enough of us that are loving to geek out about this that there really isn't a financial barrier. That's one of the reasons that I've started this sort of living medicine library out of my own house, is because I recognize what a privilege I'm coming from. I made a whole lot of money when I was still working 10 years ago. I was able to cash out my whole 401k. I have familial support that's giving me a place to live, so I don't have to worry about that. And because of that, I can own this $30 book or however much it is. But what I can also do is share that with everyone else. So if you go to darkislight.com, you'll see a couple of different touch points for me. Like my Instagram is dark as lightning. I should have my email on there, gray@darkislight.com. And that's essentially what I'm doing, is just providing these resources that I've needed myself, that I've used on my own healing, and it's all having to do with living medicine. So is that the herbs that I'm growing outside? Is that the types of books that I'm reading, whether it's German new medicine or otherwise, to really come up with your own formula for healing, because no
Mm.
one can tell you otherwise. You have to really figure it out for yourself and really get in touch with those deepest, darkest parts of you. And that's exactly the reason is exciting, because it'll shoot you that much higher into the light. So it's really hopeful and promising how much we can affect our own biology. Yeah, we're electric before anything else.
Amazing. So good. You are such a light. You're so adorable. So I just want to say, yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time. And oh my goodness, for all that you have been through in the last 10 years. That is, you know, pretty incredible story. And just, I would even say, this beautiful realization of how powerful and magical we are, and that we can overcome anything. Yeah. All right.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Well,
this
thank
was
you.
so much fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.